hello to you, Bill. And the president's new strategy here is to try to discredit new Epstein concerns by tying them to different discredited narratives that have dogged him during his time in the Oval Office.
She can release it. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release. I think it's good. But it's just a subject. He's dead. He's gone. And all it is the Republicans, certain Republicans got duped by the Democrats, and they're following a Democrat playbook. And no different than Russia, and all the other hoaxes.
On this one, the most interesting dissenting voices are not the Democrats. They are the Republicans who want more than what the president is giving them.
Well, I think here's what I think is maybe a little difficult to believe. The idea that DOJ and the FBI, who prosecuted cases relating to this, don't have any idea who Epstein's clients were and that he had no record of it, of the clients. I don't know. I find that kind of hard to believe. I mean, my view is make public everything you can make public. That's what the president said yesterday.
Ultimately, though, President Trump believes he has got bigger fish to fry than Jeffrey Epstein.
Whoever operated the auto pen had a policy, which is, by the way, I think the biggest scandal. That's the scandal they should be talking about, not Jeffrey Epstein. The scandal you should be talking about is the auto pen, because I think it's the biggest scandal, one of them in American history.
So the Justice Department said last week there would not be any further disclosures related to this case. We don't know if that's still going to hold, but we do know that last night, a prosecutor who worked on the Epstein case in New York, who argued last year before a judge not to release Epstein files to protect victims, Maureen Comey, was fired. Bill.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a moment, that termination from late last night. One of the points that Josh Hawley just made there, and Andy McCarthy has made this point as well, Maxwell was tried in the Southern District of New York. People may forget about that. And she was tried in late 2021. And if there was something that tied Trump to this matter, I think they would have likely used that during the campaign. It didn't come out. It didn't happen. Where does that leave Trump's position on this?
Just still frustrated, Bill. And when you look at President Trump's long history, he, down in Palm Beach, was familiar with Jeffrey Epstein. There's no reason to think that President Trump knew that there was anything nefarious going on, but he knew who this guy was. And now that Donald Trump is the president, he doesn't want to be talking about a guy who is long dead and that he doesn't think has any impact on global affairs that he is trying to shape. And so President Trump is getting more and more frustrated. In talking to White House officials, I don't think that they coordinated their initial message with Pam Bondi, where we went from I have a list on my desk to nothing. There is no list and nothing else is coming out. But they are trying to get past this. And just like we saw with the Mike Waltz Signalgate, they are not going to let a run of bad press run Pam Bondi out of town.
Not a yes, sir, not a follower. Fit the box, fit the mold, have a seat for you. Pick a number. I was lightning before the thunder.
Thunder, thunder.
Lightning and the thunder.
Rock and roll, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Back at it again. As we regularly cover the White House press briefing, it's always very entertaining. We have a live shot for you right here. Karoline Leavitt is not out at the podium yet, but we have a locked-in press room. Everybody is seated, and nobody is doing their stand-ups. Obviously, when they're doing the stand-ups, that means that they're all waiting, right? And everyone's kind of like, I don't know. But this one's going to lock and load. Karoline Leavitt will be out answering a ton of questions. We have a lot of news that we've been covering. For instance, Donald Trump last night said that he wants to encourage the FBI to have a special counsel look into the Epstein fraud and fraudulence of the Epstein sweetheart deal that was given in 2008. I think that would be ripe for the tilling, as they say. We'll see what happens with the questions. Donald Trump was live yesterday, and he got like multiple questions on that. There are concurrent scandals that are broiling and ongoing. We talked with James Comer this week, 2 days ago? And James Comer is pissed. I just tell you, like, we chat with that dude a lot. James Comer was very angry. He was angry because he's doing a number of major investigations right now into the Biden scandals and the auto pen scandals. And James Comer doesn't have, there's only so much oxygen out there. And so if everyone's going to be talking about Epstein, then James Comer is not going to be able to get the kind of inertia that he needs on some of these other larger, important prosecutions. So I guess we'll see, right? I mean, it is really an attention matter. And so how much attention can be broken away from this? I feel like there could be, it could easily be done with like a special prosecutor or reopening an investigation. And as was said in the open by Josh Hawley being like, wait a second, the federal government prosecuted these people, put them in, planned on putting them away in prison for a very long time and did so. And yet they know nothing about them. It's insane. And so more transparency is the answer. It's always been the answer. And that's how you, that's how you fix this problem. But there are other like massive issues like the auto pen scandal that is absolutely spun entirely out of control. This is something that Joe Biden has all but admitted to now, the New York Times, something that didn't get enough coverage, probably would have been the only thing that we talked about this week, was that Joe Biden, his staff said to the New York Times, yeah, we just inserted a bunch of names to be pardoned into the machine. Without Joe Biden knowing, that means that the pardons are fake. Joe Biden's entire administration is fake, and that the Joe Biden presidency was fake. It's the biggest scandal to ever be visited upon the American people. And so these are like big problems, and we need big focus on them. And so it'd be nice to see like some type of mechanism to diffuse the Epstein question in a way that like puts it into a, that appeases all parties, right? It could be like full disclosure. It could be a new special prosecutor or investigator. That's what Donald Trump said last night, and Donald Trump suggested that. So we'll see. It's a really bad landscape right now for Democrats. I've never seen a worse landscape. They have literally nothing to run on. They have nowhere to hide. They have no established principles that the American people care about. And I think they've hit rock bottom with their approval rating. I think it's the lowest approval rating for Democrat Party in American history. And so we have a lot of good things going for us. And the base cares. And it'd be nice to muscle this issue into and over the finish line. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've been advocating the gold standard, JFK, right? The release, the transparency, the documents, the openness about it, the interviews. It's the way that you do it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we're awaiting Karoline Leavitt. Here we go. Here's our shot once again. Karoline Leavitt not out at the press dais, but ladies and gentlemen, when she comes out, trust that we will absolutely be locking in. Speaking of transparency and lies, Barack and Michelle Obama have decided to appear on camera for the first time in a year, I think, right? Right about now is the Democrat National Convention. This is the last time you saw the two of them together. Michelle skipped all of the festivities for the inauguration and has since launched a podcast with her brother, something you don't do when you're happily married, and has not been seen with Barack Obama, and has instead used her miniature podcast audience in order to trash her husband time and time and time again. Virtually every single episode is about how much she hates him. And totally weird. So I guess that now they've been forced to do a very awkward interview together. Awkward and anxious during frank discussion about divorce rumors. Body language experts saying that Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, who appeared on the podcast together, body language expert says that there's more than meets the eye. First Lady was awkward and anxious meeting her husband. There have been rumors about them getting divorced for a very long time. Michelle clapped back at the speculation, saying there has not been one moment in their marriage that she thought about separating. Really? What about the time that she said that she didn't want to bear sons for Barack Obama? It's like a literal thing that she said. Completely evil, man. Careful about who you marry. Here's the exchange. Let me tell you how natural this looks between the two of them. It's normal husband-wife stuff.
Hello, look at you.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really, huh?
That's so
The
nice.
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all. Now, don't start.
I can't.
It was touch and go for a while.
It's so nice to have you both in the same room
I
together.
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
Look, let me tell you. First of all, see, I'm.
Okay, I gotta stop here. Okay, before the eunuch gets started. This is Michelle Obama's brother. You know, tell me which one you think is the brother and the sister. But, like the insane. Like I see my wife virtually every single day, unless we are traveling on the road. I don't even like doing overnights. I like sleeping in my own bed. This is the creepiest and strangest hello interaction I've ever seen. I mean, it's like he like dumps her. It's like utterly platonic, and it's awkward. You can tell. This is why lie detectors work, because your pulse goes up, your blood races. You can tell in somebody's voice when somebody's voice shoots up higher. Oh, okay. You can tell they're nervous. You can tell they're trying to lie. When your voice goes up, you're lying.
Wait, you.
Look at you.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really, huh?
That's so
The
nice.
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all.
Oh yeah, this is called overcompensating. Okay, this is called overcompensating. Oh my gosh. Okay, all right. It's really hard to watch. How did those people run the country? They're so impressive. They clearly have so much going on. Ah, what a mess. How does Michelle Obama's brother have a higher voice than she does? Michelle Obama's like, "Hey, it's my husband, y'all." And the eunuch is like, "Hello, hi, I like you." It's so creepy, man. Let's listen.
People come up to me all the time. This woman came up to me and she was so nice. She was like, "Can I have a picture?" Yeah. And then, so you know how you get the side hug, and she's like, "What did he do?"
And you knew she was gonna say what he did.
He. And I was like,
it wasn't like what happened to him.
That is so
It was like,
terrible.
how'd he mess up?
how'd he mess up? And I said, well, what makes you think he messed up? Why couldn't it
Well,
been
why
her?
did you just say no one messed up?
Well, because I wanted to keep this conversation
it's
going
so
so that I
awkward.
could tell you about it.
Oh Lord.
I was like, what? And she's like, he did something, didn't he?
Oh.
I was
He
like,
hates his life.
don't worry, everything's fine. And let me
Hates
tell
his
you,
life.
she was so happy, you would have thought I gave her a Christmas gift.
These are the kinds of things
Yeah.
that I just miss. Right? So I don't even know this stuff's going on.
Right.
And then somebody will mention it to me and I'm all like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Yeah.
There hasn't been one moment in our marriage where I thought about quitting my man. And we've had some really hard times, so we have had a lot of fun times, a lot of adventures, and I have become a better person because of the man I'm married to.
Okay. Don't make me cry now. Right at the beginning of the show.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
Don't let me start tearing up now.
And welcome to
What? What? Okay, so do you have a significant other? Do you have a wife or girlfriend or anything? Do you greet them at the door going, "Oh, who knew you'd be here today? Glad we're not caught at a Coldplay concert, you know, and then Jumbotron." And then the next thing that you hear directly out of your wife's mouth is, "I've never thought about leaving you. I promise." Like, that's the first thing Michelle Obama says. Nobody even prompts her. She's like, "I never thought about leaving your ass." Say what now? Then Barack Obama's like, "I'm gonna cry." Okay, all right, got it. So that's horrifying. Throwback to Tucker Carlson's interview with Larry Sinclair that exposed Obama was gay. Okay, I'm just saying, it's just interview. It's just an interview. And oh, by the way, Obama says you need to have a gay friend. That's not me saying it. This is Barack Obama saying it. Ladies and gentlemen, former President Barack Obama announced that every man needs a gay friend to learn about empathy while he and his wife, while he was on Michelle's podcast. Obama says men need a gay friend to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group. If you have a boy who's gay or non-binary, or you have you, or what have you, they have to have somebody they're like, okay, I'm not alone in this. All right. Like this, I guess everyone's just out there spitting at this point. Here's Jesse Waters' take on it.
Doesn't just want you on the couch. He's telling guys to put down the baseball and pick up a playbill.
They have to be able to learn how to be more than just the sport that they care about. And while they get great skills in sports and they learn a whole lot of traits,
Teamwork.
I think we owe it to our boys to be very deliberate about saying enough with sports and let's try some other things.
So sometimes it's just a matter of, saying to our boys, you being interested in art, and you being interested in, theater, that's cool.
Okay. You're cool for being a theater kid. This is what it was all about in the end, wasn't it, for Barack Obama? It was all acting. It's all fake. Everything's fake. The romance, the relationship, everything's fake. All of it's fake. The oppression, they're both worth $100 million, and that's on the low end. Those are just estimates. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It's all fake. Here's the line, by the way. Barack Obama. Every guy's got to have a gay best friend. Here we go.
Bring a gay friend.
I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't outlawed, who became one of my favorite professors. You need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or what have you, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Right?
Apropos to nothing, a reminder that Tucker Carlson did an interview with Larry Sinclair. And you're free to go watch it. And he says he bought drugs for Barack Obama. And they had a, nice time together in the back of a limousine. Okay. Well, okay. There's a great old Shakespeare line that says, the lady doth protest too much. And that's really what's wild about all this. This is awkward AF, everyone's saying on the internet. Michelle Obama, my man. Michelle's brother, wait, you guys like each other? Michelle, the rumor mill. Barack, she took me back. Now don't start. Barack, it was touch and go for a while. And he kisses her cheek. That is it's just like extremely awkward. And they're very bad at this. It's pretty impressive, quite frankly, how bad they are at this. There's been problems. Hey, Alex, we have that supercut. Of Michelle Obama trashing Barack. There's been problems. Michelle Obama has taken, I don't know what the instinct is in people that they have to do all this in public. And I always hate that. Where you have to air it all out in public and you need to publicly humiliate somebody. But Michelle Obama's been on a rampage. We have a supercut, in fact. Has been on a rampage to publicly humiliate Barack Obama. And I think we're the only show that's actually clipped this, done our research. It's like watching a train wreck. You just can't help yourself. It's too easy. Here's Michelle Obama. We were able to find minutes on end of her just trashing Barack. And you wonder why people think that they're getting divorced. And by the way, this kind of stuff, it's all created, this, if you could just click over to my screen, please. This is all created by a PR firm. I've worked with a ton of, I've worked in DC. I know all these PR firms. I know all these people. This is created by a PR firm that says it's getting out of hand. Everybody's writing divorce rumors about you. Here's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to block it all out. And we know that you guys are separated and you'll never see each other again. You don't love each other, and that, you know, your entire relationship is obviously fraudulent and has been set up by globalists, power structure, kids aren't real and everything like that. But like, how about this? Here's how we fix it, right? So you're going to sit together in a super awkward podcast. We're going to put it together. I'm going to shove that podcast out there through all the media, and we're going to tell everyone how much you love each other. They do this with celebrity couples all the time. Like, most celebrity couples aren't real. Most celebrity relationships aren't real at all. It's completely manufactured for power. I do find it amazing how Michelle Obama can't help herself, but like blurt out, we're together, we love each other. But we went through a lot of hard times. That life has sucked with you. She said that so many times. By the way, like another multimillionaire lady you got to feel sorry for, okay? Just remember, that is the number one victim class in the country is postmenopausal, super rich left-wing ladies. Okay. That go on podcasts and trash their husbands like this. Here we go.
I have to say, Brian, if I'm a single girl out there and I find out that Brian Chesky is single and I can like stay in his house,
There she
have
goes.
you ever?
Go
There you
right,
go.
right
Have
to the
you
relationship.
ever-
But Brian, you don't have to be feel pressure.
No, but we've never talked about
he
this.
just
Have you-
got here.
Have you
Her
ever?
and her husband have tried to set me up before, so
I'm very invested
Yeah,
in
I appreciate
Brian's
it.
love life. But
Wait.
so you've never met anybody? The fact that people don't see me going out on a date with my husband sparks rumors of the end of our marriage. I mean, it's sort of so we still, you know, so
like
that
the
is
apocalypse.
It's the apocalypse. It's like, okay, so we don't Instagram every minute of our lives. We are 60. You just are not going to know what we're doing every minute of the day, you know? And yes, I guess we're famous, but we're 60.
You are. You're a real famous
We don't
60-year-old.
take selfies. I just, you know, Barack was joking. He's like, you don't even take pictures of anything we do. I was like, I'm not thinking about a picture.
I
Why
know,
would
right?
wanna
You're trying to
capture
be in
it?
the moment. I'm really
here.
bad at taking pictures.
That's
too.
right. It's about what he needs as a grown man in the world. That would be.
You should have threw a boy in the mix.
I would. I'm so glad I didn't have a boy.
This one's tough.
Because he would have been a Barack Obama.
It was
like,
baby Barack. It would have been
Ooh,
amazing.
no, I would have felt for him. There was a line of people waiting to shake hands with our respective husbands,
Okay.
you know, people like reaching over our heads and spilling water on us, trying to get to these two, you know, illustrious men, you know, and she had the same look on her face as I did. Like, here we go, you know? And I looked over at this beautiful woman. Did we even have a conversation? Not until later in that afternoon. And that
So
was,
you hadn't met.
we hadn't met.
You just
this was,
saw
you know,
each
kind of,
other
but I
across
just
the
saw
table.
the
Yeah.
look on her
Yeah.
face, which expressed the sentiments that I felt, which was
Pissed off.
Barack, you know,
Yeah.
he had to adjust to what on time was for
Because
me.
he was on that island time.
Well,
that
but
brother.
you know, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3:00. He's getting up and going to the bathroom, and I was like, dude, like 3:00 departure means you've done all that. You know, it's like, don't start looking for your glasses, you know, at the 3:00 departure. But he's improved over 30 years of marriage. But that was you must adjust. And Malia and Sasha, if they're doing anything with me, they are early.
Right.
So they've learned how to snap to it. Well, I couldn't have gotten through 8 years in the White House without my big brother. But you talked me into supporting his run. And he was smart enough to know that he needed to come to you and sell you on the ideas.
Everything happened so fast because Barack went from a state senator to a U.S. senator, and next thing you know, people were saying, this guy should run for president. You were like, no, not doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Careful who you marry. Obviously, the most important decision of your life. Let me say that as a very happily married man of 7 years now. The tale of men's destruction and men who have great potential runs pretty perfectly parallel with who they decide to marry. And if they marry a succubus, if they marry somebody who is clinically and terminally narcissistic and self-obsessed, then you're just going to have a terrible life. You're going to have a horrible life. And I'll end this Michelle bit with all of this. Like, at the very least, these people, and tell us who they are. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Here's Michelle Obama. You can tell where the animosity comes from is that Barack Obama's more powerful and famous than her. And she's probably always hated that. That's what Hillary Clinton hated about Bill, that people actually liked Bill Clinton, and they hated her. And it creates this like girl boss revenge vector of absolute darkness and cringe and this frenetic psychobabble like this. Here's Michelle Obama on stage talking about how her biggest problem in life is that nobody's paying attention to her anymore. At least they straight up admit it. At least they admit it, right? Subtlety, not a quality in these people.
People here of all ages who are trapped by their phones. And when you talk about us being disconnected and not talking to each other, I am not out in the world like a normal person anymore. But when I am, people don't even recognize me. You know why? Because they're on their phones. Nobody is looking at each other. I could walk right past somebody with a hat on, you know, and I'm just a black woman in a cap. But that's because
I don't know.
No, I've done it.
I don't know about that.
I have done it. I fly commercial. I am out there with the people, and folks are not paying attention.
I fly commercial.
So.
Okay. Okay.
Michelle Obama's worth $100 million. There she's getting roasted by her brother, who seems like maybe an innocent party here. Right? He was just like a basketball coach. Guy never ran for office or anything like that. I never even heard of the guy. But here, he like, good for you. The ball's on this guy. I'm talking about her brother, not Michelle. Roasting her for saying she flies commercial, please. Show me the last time that Michelle Obama flew commercial. Now, while that is really funny in that clip, the best part of it is Michelle Obama sitting there being like, no one pays attention to me. Right? Looking just like the new Predator. That's what everybody says. Looks just like the new Predator. Nobody pays attention to me anymore. Put down your phones and worship me. Like that's, I mean, really something. That's quite the vibe. Quite the vibe check. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, moving on. Here's the shot of the White House press dais, still empty as we await Karoline Leavitt in a rare, late arrival. Typically, she is right on time. There's a lot going on in the world. The screens are on now, so I think that means we will be imminently getting questions. However, this is an interesting question. Is Jeffrey Epstein alive? I don't know the answer to that. Wouldn't that be an interesting plot twist? That perhaps the reason why this is all going on is because Jeffrey Epstein's alive. Guess who says that? Somebody who you most likely respect. Somebody that President Trump respects a lot. So much so that she spoke at President Trump's final campaign rally and then at his inauguration. Somebody that we like a lot, been on our program, we've been on hers, is Megyn Kelly. Really smart. Rose to the very, very tippy top of cable news and network news. And she's been out multiple times lately saying, no, Epstein's not dead. It's wild. So it began with this clip from her podcast. And this is a clip that she posted up this week with Ben Shapiro. She has Ben Shapiro on. It's quite the debate. But she alludes to the fact that, you know, maybe this conversation is headed in the wrong direction because the truth is beyond comprehension right now, which is that Epstein is still alive. Have a listen to Megyn here in this interaction.
Now we're working in the realm of the unfalsifiable.
You're not, but look, Ben, you can't come to me and say, everybody I know says he killed himself. And then I respond saying, I actually have my own sources who say he didn't. And then you say, well, your sources are not valid because they won't put their names on it. Okay,
Well,
who are
no,
your
I'm not saying
sources?
they're
Let's go
invalid. I'm
down the
saying they
list
should-
and then we'll talk about why they might be saying that.
My sources are the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, Dan Bongino, the Deputy Head of the FBI, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. And those aren't just my sources. They're everybody's sources because they publicly came out and said this.
Okay. Trump hasn't specifically weighed in on that specific aspect of it. We've all seen the limited things that Trump has said and tweeted on this. And J.D. Vance was calling for transparency and suggesting otherwise prior to taking office. He hasn't commented on this so far, so he's not one of your sources.
Ask him. He's the vice
you've
president.
Got Kash,
So
you've got Dan, and you've got Pam, and we've already discussed that memo in full detail. I'm talking about people behind the scenes who, prior to Trump taking office, I'm not going to get too specific, but trust me, I have high-level sources who have said they don't believe any of that. Any of that. Okay. So, and I'm not going to out them for purposes of convincing you, but you're telling me name them. No, I'm not going to. I don't have authorization.
I'm not saying,
and then you say, well, I dismiss all of it because you won't name them.
Hold on, Megan, I'm not saying you should name them. I'm saying they should name themselves because otherwise they are being complicit in one of the greatest cover-ups in the history of the American Republic.
That's easy for you to say, Ben. That's easy. That's very easy for you to say.
Why is that easy for me to say? Why?
Because you'll have your job and you'll have your millions, no matter what they do.
Megan, give me a break. If somebody came out today and they were a whistleblower on the greatest scandal in the history of the American Republic, they would make more money tomorrow than in their entire life working for the FBI. That's ridiculous.
Okay, there are reasons not to cross the people who are in charge, and that's all I'm going to say. And look, this is me not having.
That's what Tim Dillon said. Tim Dillon said, "Hey, the reason why Trump might not be doing this." Tim Dillon, obviously somebody who cares about the president and interviewed the president and his administration. He's a great comedian, and comedians tend to see these things with like crystal clarity. That's why Shane Gillis, Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon, that's why these guys have such like a sharp wit and instinct on these things. Comedians just understand, like it's all based. The essence of comedy is truth and like a very deep well of truth. And Tim Dillon straight up being like, Trump knows they'll kill him. Like Trump knows that these are the same people that tried to kill Trump already, and Trump knows how evil they are. And maybe that's why part of this is happening. But anyway, let's talk about what was referenced there. Megyn Kelly being like, well, it's easy for you to say, Ben Shapiro, with the memo that of course has exploded like a bombshell for so many people. But the official story wasn't trusted in so many instances over the last few years. You can't really help us. But when we wonder about the January 6th official narrative and the COVID official narrative. And ladies and gentlemen, speaking of official narratives,
with the president,
here is
let me begin with a
Karoline
few scheduling announcements today. President Trump will travel to Scotland, where he will visit both Turnberry and Aberdeen from July 25th to July 29th. During the visit, President Trump will meet again with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the great trade deal that was brokered between the United States and the United Kingdom. And the President and the First Lady will travel to the United Kingdom for an official state visit from September 17th to September 19th later this fall. This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated. Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services were flat in June, which is lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey predicted. And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month. Wages are growing at a strong pace and prices are falling for everyday Americans. We also saw prices for new and used vehicles and airfares drop last month. In addition, prices for gas, fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year. As we said all along, trust in President Trump. The American dream is back, and everyday families are already reaping the benefits of this incredible economic turnaround in just 6 months. President Trump has ended the era of economic surrender and implemented powerful tariffs to stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreements. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts claiming that these tariffs would be the end of the world as we know it, the opposite has occurred. Tariffs are not inflationary, as President Trump has said all along. In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than $113 billion since President Trump entered office, helping to lead a budget surplus in June for the first time in nearly a decade. We are truly entering a golden age as a result of these pro-growth and America First trade policies. On another matter, yesterday in the East Room, the president was proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating fentanyl crisis that has ravaged millions of Americans. Under the Halt Fentanyl Act, anyone who possesses, imports, distributes, or manufactures any illicit fentanyl-related substances will be subject to criminal prosecution in the same manner as any other Schedule I controlled substance. This legislation will close the loopholes that criminals use to skirt around the law and make it easier for law enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection just released the final operationalized stats for the month of June, and I must highlight some of these incredible numbers. There were only 6,072 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day, and on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the Southwest border. There were also 0 illegal aliens released along the Southwest border for the second consecutive month in a row. President Trump promised to end the illegal alien invasion, and he has delivered on that promise to the American people in record time. With the border sealed, deportations are ramping up. This past weekend, our brave ICE agents were arresting violent criminal illegal aliens all across the country. ICE Atlanta arrested an illegal alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina. ICE Baltimore arrested an illegal alien from Guatemala who was previously convicted for sexual abuse of a minor in Maryland. ICE Houston arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico whose previous conviction includes aggravated sexual assault of a child in Texas. ICE Salt Lake City arrested a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE San Antonio arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of aggravated sexual assault in Texas. The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us, including everyone in this room, safe. The facility, one second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of these barbaric practices will now be closing its doors. The facility in Los Angeles, California, is just the latest facility downsizing or eliminating their irreversible and harmful services that feed into the lie that you can somehow change a child's sex. The Biden administration peddled dangerous policies that defied medical science in favor of radical transgender ideology. But President Trump has put an end to that to ensure America's children's innocence is protected and our children can lead healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion rescissions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid and finally ending taxpayer funding for PBS and NPR, two media organizations that have ridiculously used federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years. The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature. On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's physician to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions. Here in our new media seat, we have Frank Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a timely week with crypto legislation moving across Capitol Hill. So why don't you kick us off, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Leavitt.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then my second question was about something the president spoke about in this room. He talked about a $600 de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin and other crypto spending. So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well, the president did signal his support for a de minimis exemption for crypto, and the administration continues to be in support of that. We are definitely receptive to it to make crypto payments easier and more efficient for those who seek to use crypto as simple as buying a cup of coffee. Of course, right now that cannot happen, but with the de minimis exemption, perhaps it could in the future, and we will continue to explore legislative solutions to accomplish that. As for the central bank digital currency and the Genius Act, which you noted has passed through Congress and will be sent to the president's desk. I believe the House is voting on it. If they haven't, they should be passing it. We know we have the votes, and we expect it to get to the president's desk, and we are planning a signing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. All of you will get more details on that. This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign, and while it's not in this specific piece of legislation, he did sign a January executive order banning a central bank digital currency. The administration supports Congress's efforts to codify that executive order into law, and I believe there will be future pieces of legislation in regards to crypto that will be moving through Capitol Hill. The president looks forward to signing them, and he looks forward to the signing ceremony this afternoon. So thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Karoline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions. And they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from the story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal. And that would have to be requested, and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Why did he fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the NAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country, not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump. John,
Fed Chair.
go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Karoline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works, first of all? What happens if Russia doesn't end its war with Ukraine in 50 days?
Well, in 50 days, as the president clearly laid out, if there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs, and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be sanctioned as well, and of course that will do deep damage to Russia's economy. And I would just add that the president wants this war to end with a diplomatic solution. He's been pushing for it. This administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing and he wants to save lives. Reagan,
go
go ahead.
What you were saying, Caroline.
Reagan, go ahead.
I have 2 questions for you. It's just about, if I may, just about the tariffs, the first part. I get the secondary tariffs, but there was only $3 billion worth of trade between the U.S. and Russia in 2024. It's expected to be far less this particular year. On April the 2nd, both you and the Treasury Secretary said it's not necessary to apply any tariffs on Russia. You said that because of the lack of trade, it precludes, that was the word you used, any need for tariffs? Why now, and why do you think that that would make them cave and come to some sort of peace agreement as it relates to Ukraine?
$3 billion is still a lot of money, John, and it's not just tariffs, it's the secondary sanctions as well that will be implemented in 50 days. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for
Sure.
you. First on Congress. Congresswoman Salazar introduced legislation that would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. 10 Republicans signed on to what she's calling the Dignity Act. I'm curious what the White House's position is on the legislation and if the president would veto this bill if it made it to his desk.
From my understanding, the White House nor the president has actually read through this legislation. We've been focused on, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed, which is another historic accomplishment of this president in record time. The Genius Act this week, the rescissions package, that's been the focus of the White House. But the president has made it very clear he will not support amnesty for illegal aliens in any way.
I want to give you a chance to respond to the CEO of NPR. She's claiming that the cuts to their network will, quote, be a real risk to public safety of the country. Murkowski has argued that public broadcasting stations save lives. Could you respond to these concerns?
The NPR CEO said cutting NPR will be a risk to public safety. I am not sure how NPR helps the public safety of our country, but I do know that NPR, unfortunately, has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election. They said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That does not sound like an unbiased opinion. That sounds like a partisan opinion to me. And this is a taxpayer-funded organization. In 2018, that same CEO that you're talking about called the president in the Oval Office, who nearly 80 million Americans elected, she called him racist, shared a photo of herself wearing a Biden for President campaign hat, serves on the board of a Soros-funded activist group. In 2020, PBS's White House correspondent at the time characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week Roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental divide. That's actually quite the clip. I would encourage all of you to look at it. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan, left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money. Ed Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. So does the president believe that the slightly restrictive monetary policy stance right now, could that cause an economic slowdown? And if he does believe that, when?
What pause are you referring to?
No, could the stance of the monetary policy is slightly restrictive? Does the president believe that that stance, the slightly restrictive stance, could cause an economic slowdown in itself?
I haven't heard the president discuss that specifically, but what I do know in regards to the Federal Reserve is the president's been very transparent about his displeasure with both the policies and the management of the Fed, and he spoke about that to all of you pretty extensively in the Oval Office yesterday.
And last month, one more if I could. Last month, the Canadian Prime Minister said the president had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our conversations and discussions with Canada. The president himself has said, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north have been pretty difficult to deal with when it comes to matters on trade. But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the president directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said, if countries want to have legitimate further discussions, the Trump administration and the president's trade team are willing to have further talks, but these letters these countries have been receiving are the deals. And as the president has said, those deals will be made. They are tailor-made to each and every country based on the United States' concerns and what's in the best interest of the American worker and the American people. Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
No, I called on Charlie, but Deanna, you can go ahead too. Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look it over?
Well, the idea was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the attorney general, I'm not sure. Deanna.
Karoline, thank you so much. Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward. He has called on them to do that. Sure.
Thank you, Karoline.
That's our question.
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady.
That was our question, the Mike Johnson question.
To the August 9th deadline, how are the negotiations with Europe going? There's some sticking points. What are they? Can we expect a delay, or should we expect a deal soon?
Well, I believe the deadline is August 1st. As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So the president's trade team continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Would he accept, or would he put forth a postponement of the August 1st?
He's already said he will not.
Caroline,
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Caroline. In Gaza today, Holy Family Catholic Church was struck by an Israeli shell.
Yes.
3 people were killed, 10 wounded. What is the president's reaction to that church coming under fire?
It was not a positive reaction. He called Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning to address the strikes on that church in Gaza, and I understand the Prime Minister agreed to put out a statement. It was a mistake by the Israelis to hit that Catholic church. That's what the Prime Minister relayed to the President, and you should look at the Prime Minister's statement that will be coming out. Steve, go ahead.
Back to your letter that you read at the beginning.
Sure.
The President, you said mild swelling in his legs.
Yes, sir.
Is it causing him any discomfort? How are you treating it?
Nope. No discomfort from the president at all, and you probably all see that on a day-to-day basis. He's working around the clock. As for the treatments, I can defer to the president's physician, and we'll get you this letter. I think it will answer all your questions.
There are reports that a Chinese-born banker who works in Atlanta for Wells Fargo is being prevented from leaving China. Has the president, is he going to bring this up with President Xi? Are you aware of the case?
I'm not aware of the case, but I'm sure our National Security Council team is. Steve will get you some answers on that.
Thank you.
Kristen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. So the first is that President Trump said that the Attorney General only gave him a brief overview of what was in these Epstein files. Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Not to my knowledge, and that's a question for the Attorney General, as I said, and the President has told the Attorney General if they have any more credible evidence, they should release it.
Is that evidence, would she have to run that by the President before she released it?
I don't think so. He said if she has any more credible evidence, she should release it.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. One, today...
And you can go ahead, Andrew. Don't worry.
Today, tens of thousands of folks are rallying nationwide to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis. Meanwhile, Republicans in Texas reportedly are working to redraw congressional maps at President Trump's urging. How is President Trump reconciling his call to action for Texas Republicans with the legacy of Representative John Lewis?
I'm not quite sure how the two things are related. I think the president would agree that John Lewis served our country for many, many years. It has nothing to do with the redistricting efforts that are currently underway by Texas Republicans to add seats to their legislature. They have the right to do that. The president spoke to the congressmen and women who serve the great state of Texas about it, but it's up to them and it's up to their legislature to get that approved.
And Caroline, just a second question.
Go
Does
ahead.
the president support the Justice Department's request for just 1 day in jail for the officer convicted in Breonna Taylor's killing? And what message does he believe that sends to her family and to other families seeking justice in cases of police violence?
I haven't talked to the president about that case. Go ahead.
Just the president, when the president met the interim president of Syria a couple of months ago, he described him as a young, tough, attractive guy. After the latest clashes in Syria over the last few days, does President Trump still support Syria's interim president?
The president still supports Syria's pathway to a peaceful and prosperous country, and you received an update directly from the Secretary of State on the ongoing situation between Syria and Israel. I spoke to him myself this morning to get an update, and as soon as the United States became involved in this conflict, we were able to de-escalate, deconflict. That seems to be continuing. Syria agreed to draw back their troops that were in the area where that clash was ongoing, and we continue to be very actively monitoring the situation. The president wants to see Syria become a prosperous and stable country, and by the lifting of the sanctions on Syria, he's giving them a real chance to do that, and he wants to see that through. Andrew, go ahead.
So on Tuesday, the president told a very detailed story about his uncle, noted scientist John Trump, and Theodore Kaczynski, the late Unabomber. He said that Dr. Trump taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was not identified as the Unabomber until 1996, 11 years after John Trump passed away. It would have been impossible for John Trump to have ever discussed the Unabomber with the president. So what was he talking about? And I have one follow-up.
Andrew, with so many issues going on in the world, I'm a little bit surprised you would ask such a question, although I'm not sometimes coming from you, I will say, but I'm willing to give you an answer. Nevertheless, the president's uncle did, in fact, teach at MIT. He was a very intelligent professor. The president's very proud of his family. In fact, the president has a letter from his uncle on the MIT letterhead that sits in the Oval Office dining room. Maybe we'll let you see it sometime. Elizabeth.
Caroline, one more on.
Elizabeth,
will the
go
president consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell
Elizabeth,
if the Epstein case is a hoax?
Okay, I'll start off with the president said last week he would not be getting involved in the New York City mayoral case. If that mayoral race, if that's still the case, given his history drawing a large crowd in New York City, what's his reason for staying out of it in that way?
Well, look, I think the president reserves the right to get involved in races or not get involved in races, and he's made the decision not to weigh in on the New York mayoral race, as you rightly pointed out, although he has gone as far to say he absolutely does not want to see Zemdami elected, who is a known communist who supports the abolishment of private property, the defunding of police. He has made very well-known anti-Semitic statements. It would be a disaster for New York and for this country, and I think it's quite telling that this individual, a known communist, has been spending time in Washington this week meeting with leaders on Capitol Hill. This is truly where the Democrat Party is headed. Clearly, they learned nothing from November 5th in the president's overwhelming victory. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I want to backtrack to the hospitals that have stopped providing transgender surgeries and hormones for kids. On this front, does that have anything to do with the DOJ's subpoenas last week? Should we expect any more hospitals to be shutting down their programs? And I wanted to also ask what you make of all these media reports, especially the AP, which I noticed, which portrays these children as losing something that's saving their lives.
Yes, I think the president spoke a lot about this issue, which is a political issue, but also really a cultural issue that impacts children and families. He talked about it a lot on the campaign, and I think he was quite surprised by the uptick we were seeing in the embracement by the Democrat Party when it comes to the chemical castration and mutilation of young, innocent bodies. And so the president made it a very early priority to sign very strong executive orders to cut off the funding for any hospital or any medical facility in this country that provides such barbaric procedures. And as a result of that strong policy and the president's strong common sense position on this issue, we've had such an overwhelming response, which is great for children in Arizona. Phoenix Children's Hospital has stopped providing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to minors. In California, Stanford Medicine ended sex change surgeries for minors. Children's Hospital Los Angeles is closing its Center for Trans Youth Health and Development surgical program. In Illinois, Lurie Children's Hospital Chicago stopped sex change surgeries. Again, let's think about what we're talking about here. Sex change surgeries for minors. These are barbaric practices that no child, innocent child, should have to endure. And the president wants to protect the innocence of children, and I know the vast majority of Americans support him in that effort. This is a wildly popular and common sense endeavor this administration has taken, and we've seen many of these medical institutions have have followed through with the president's executive orders, but will continue to take further action on this important issue. Garrett.
I too, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
On the rescissions package, I wonder what the White House makes of this theory that it increases the odds of a shutdown. The theory is basically, why would any Democrat vote for a bipartisan spending deal with Republicans if Republicans can turn around and claw the money back the next day?
Look, $9 billion worth of crap that it was in our federal funding that is now being rescinded. This is a good thing for the American people and the American taxpayer. And I think our Office of Management and Budget Director was saying this process should be more bipartisan. Democrats, there was a time in this country where Democrats too cared about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal spending. I think every American agrees the government spends way too much money on things that don't matter. Some of those things include PBS and NPR, or for instance, the Democracy Fund, which was funded to the tune of $83 million through the Department of State, but they were giving hundreds of thousands of dollars for gender equality and empowerment hubs in Yemen, $3.9 million for strengthening information integrity, equality, and democracy for LGBTQI population of the Western Balkans. These are not good uses of the taxpayer funds, and Republicans are proud to lead that effort, and we wish more Democrats would join us in that.
I wanted to follow up on the Maureen Comey question just to clarify. Did the White House have any knowledge, or did the president sign off on her firing?
This was a decision that was made by the Department of Justice.
There was an agreement that was made between Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services regarding access to Medicaid information for 92 million Medicaid recipients around the country. That includes health information. So how does that not violate HIPAA violations and privacy concerns, for example, of American citizens?
I'm going to have to defer you to Immigration and Customs Enforcement on that. I'm unfamiliar with that agreement that they made.
Caroline.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions. Russ Vought said today he's going to be looking into cost overruns in the Fed's renovation projects. Is there a deadline for him to come back with findings to the president?
I don't believe there's a deadline the president has set for Russ Vought, but I think, again, this is a good use of taxpayers' time to look into this project that is millions and millions of dollars over budget. It's for a big, beautiful mansion for the federal chairman, reserve chairman, and I understand that it costs much more than it did the beautiful palace that many of you joined us at when we went overseas. So it's completely unnecessary, it's overpriced, and I think it's a good thing the administration, led by the president, is looking into it.
If there ever were to find wrongdoing or fraud, would the president reconsidering firing Jerome Powell?
Look, it's a hypothetical question. We'll see where it goes. The president spoke about how he feels on this matter yesterday.
Sure.
Thank
Thank you so much, Caroline. So we saw Ambassador Huckabee arrive to Prime Minister Netanyahu's trial to show his support. Does the president plan to impose any kind of sanctions against the Israel judicial system?
I don't have any update for you on that or any announcement on that front. I don't believe so.
Does the president believe that justice has been served in the Epstein case?
Look, the president believes that he directed the Department of Justice to do an exhaustive and thorough review, and they did that. And they all agreed, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, the attorney general, on the memo that they drafted and they released.
Thank you, Caroline. Just a follow-up on Reagan's question. Representative Salazar's bill, it grants illegal aliens with legal status for 7-year increments. It also gives permanent path to residency for so-called dreamers. And, you know, President Trump and Labor Secretary Chavez, who previously co-sponsored a version of this bill when she was in the House, they've spoken about a work deal similar to the bill, I believe. What's the difference between a work deal and amnesty?
Look, as I told Reagan, the president, the White House have not reviewed this specific piece of legislation. It's just not where our focus has been. But the president, for one, has been very clear he does not support amnesty. We'll go to, look at some friends in the back. Brian, go ahead. You didn't show up early enough to get some good real estate up here.
I love it. Any update on the auto pen? I know that there was the DOJ and some others were looking into the thousands of documents that were signed off just before Joe Biden left office. Any update on the auto pen?
Yes. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at how far away you are, and you're going to need to get some microphones back there. And the auto pen investigation, yes. The White House counsel's office has launched their own investigation into former President Biden's usage of the auto pen, we have requested some documents from the National Archives. And again, as I've said many times from this podium, and the president has said as well, it's incredibly important that we get to the bottom of who really was at the tip of the spear in the decision-making process here in the White House, because former President Biden himself admitted to the New York Times, I understand he never gave interviews when he was here, but now all of a sudden he wants to give one, and he said that he did not actually review every single pardon that he signed on his way out the door. That's incredibly concerning, and I can tell you it's something this president would never tolerate. This is a president who is signing things all the time. Any document that has legal implications, this president's signature is on it because he's the one making the decisions. It does not appear that was the truth in the previous White House, and I know the American people want to receive answers on who was running the show, because the decisions that were made in this place really destroyed our country, and we deserve to get to the bottom of it. Mark, in the back.
Thanks. Some Christian groups are complaining that they are not able to get visas as quickly to travel to Israel, and it's been elevated to Ambassador Huckabee's station. Is the White House aware of that? Does it have any reaction to that? And is that part of the president's disappointment with Netanyahu's government?
Look, I'm not aware of that, Mark, but I'm sure, again, our National Security Council is, and also the State Department. As you know, travel visas roll through Secretary Rubio's shop over there, whom we work very closely with. So we will check in on the matter. But I know overall, this president and the administration do want to streamline the visa process to make it easier for both Americans who want to travel abroad and people abroad who want to come to our country the legal way. Go ahead. I was going to the gentleman above you, but go ahead, Libby, and then you can go.
Okay, two questions for you. The first is, during the Hill Nation Summit, Secretary Noem suggested there could be some changes to TSA's liquid limits.
Mm-hmm.
Is the president aware of that? Is that an idea that he's backing? And what would that timeline and the changes look like?
Sure. I would defer you to the Department of Homeland Security, but I did see Secretary Noem's comments, and I think it's great that on day one she asked TSA, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we make air travel more efficient while maintaining utmost security for American passengers and travelers? And I know they announced no more shoes, or you don't need to take off your shoes anymore at the airport, which I think is welcome news to all of us who travel a lot. But further guidance or decisions, of course, that's in the Secretary of Homeland Security's overview, and I would defer to her.
And the other question for you is on Bondi and Burgum's trip today to Alcatraz. I'm curious what the funding is going to look like for that, and who the president does want to see incarcerated there, if it were to become.
Sure. Well, this was an idea of the president. He spoke about it in May, and he directed his administration to review a reopening plan for Alcatraz if it is possible, which is why the Attorney General and the Secretary of Interior have traveled there today. They are touring the site, and if the Alcatraz prison is reopened, it would be under the purview of the Bureau of Prisons. And the Secretary of Interior also would play a big role in this as well. So they're there to review the site today, and I'm sure you'll hear more from them on it later. And just to follow up, Libby, on who the president wants to see housed in Alcatraz, the worst of the worst criminals in this country, both American criminals who convict heinous crimes, but also illegal alien criminals before deportation as well. Go ahead.
The State Department yesterday urged the Chinese Communist Party to cease its campaign to eradicate Falun Gong, a peaceful spiritual practice. With the anniversary of this brutal persecution approaching, does the White House have a message for the CCP on this?
Well, I will get you one, and we will get back to you. Sure. Go ahead. We'll take. Go ahead, and then go ahead. Sure. I've never called on you. Why don't you go ahead? In the red tie. Dr. Harper behind.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Me, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, you. What's your name?
My name is Matias. Thank you.
What's your outlet?
I'm for Record TV, Brazil.
Great.
Brazil's President Lula recently said that President Trump was elected to govern the United States and not to act as the emperor of the world. And he also emphasized that Brazil is open to negotiation. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it, what the administration has to say about it, and specifically what areas are currently open to negotiation in the light of the 50% tariffs that were announced?
Sure. The president is certainly not trying to be the emperor of the world. He is a strong president for the United States of America, and he's also the leader of the free world. And we've seen a great shift across the entire globe because of the strong leadership of this president. In regards to Brazil, the president sent a letter to Brazil announcing their new tariff percentage. He also directed our USTR ambassador, Jamieson Greer, to launch an investigation of Brazil under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, designed to address unfair foreign practices that are affecting U.S. commerce. For years, we know Brazil's digital regulations and weak IP protections have undermined U.S. tech and innovative companies, and their tolerance of illegal deforestation and other environmental practices puts American producers, manufacturers, farmers, and ranchers who follow better environmental standards at a competitive disadvantage. So this president always acts in the best interest of the American people and the United States of America, and he will continue to do so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you later. I appreciate the enthusiasm today.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Okay. Rowdy. I actually was kind of shocked at a considerable deal of news that was broken in that press conference. I want to start with the top line news that I think is quite important and is something that everybody should care about, which is President Trump's health. This is a brand new piece of breaking news that was just announced at the press conference itself. And I wasn't planning on anybody answering or asking this question. Karoline Leavitt just was out with it in her open. But this is what the internet has been speculating for quite a while. This is the photos of Trump's ankles, President Trump's ankles, and President Trump's hand. And you can see there some type of concealment of the hand itself, right? That is not the natural skin tone. And these were the images that have been going viral and saying, well, is something medically wrong with President Trump? Ladies and gentlemen, we now have obviously the answer to that speculation. Concerned markings appear across Trump's body. Experts reveal what they think they might be. And this is, of course, the close-up. This was at a press conference that was 1 day ago. You could see President Trump was concealing something on his hand, raised a circular area of skin. Some Trump's team seemed eager to hide. This was what the reporting was, and this was what the high-definition video was here. You can see the hand. There it is, being zoomed in on. Some type of bruising or concealment there that the president was using to cover his hand. Okay, what is this? Karoline Leavitt announcing at the beginning of the news conference, President Trump has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency following reports of swelling in the president's legs, per Karoline Leavitt. It's nothing serious. This is how it should be handled. Don't cover this up. An echocardiogram, which is a mapping of the heart, a very sophisticated mapping of the heart, was performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. This is the major top-line breaking news, as people have been speculating about this for quite a while, at least over the past couple of days and past public appearances of President Trump. Here's Karoline Leavitt explaining what chronic venous insufficiency is. Here's the top line here, by the way. A condition where blood doesn't flow efficiently, return from the legs to the heart, often due to damaged valves in the veins. It can lead to a range of symptoms, including swelling, pain, skin changes, and severe causes of ulcers. Usually not life-threatening, thank God, and significantly impact the quality of life if left untreated, and may lead to complications like deep vein thrombosis or embolisms. Now, those can be killers. I had a relative die of an embolism. These are heart conditions. And so this is inefficient return of blood from the lower or distant extremities is what this is. Karoline Leavitt explaining here.
Other note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's physician to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions here.
Hot damn. What a way to deal with this in the fallout of President Biden's, can you even call him president at this point? Like, can we just confirm that that was all a mistake and that it wasn't real? President Biden and his doctor, happily, his little leprechaun man. Have you ever seen this guy? He's like the creepiest little man. It's like not even a doctor, actually. He's like a family cover-up artist who LARPs as a doctor. His name's Kevin O'Connor. A creepy little dude. There he is. Joe Biden's not particularly tall, but like this guy's like this little leprechaun. He just pled the fifth. And this is a guy that was like consistently being like, no, Joe Biden's great. I mean, he's a peak of health. No one's ever been better. No one's ever healthier than Joe Biden. No one's healthier. Well, we just watched him fall ass backwards down the Air Force One stairs, like an SNL skit. He's great. We just watched him forget his own children's names. Well, he's good. He's good. This little goblin, this guy is now being targeted by congressmen in the House. We'll see what happens next. But it is refreshing. Imagine that. The left is pushing the gotcha photos of swelling in Trump's legs. Within days, the White House announced every test was done. His diagnosis, and that is not serious, there's a total 180 from the Biden era. See how easy it is? When you are actually fit for office and you can come out and just do this. Biden could never. Joe Biden's doctor fleeing here on Capitol Hill. Here's just some videos of it. Biden's doctors flat out refused to testify about Biden's cognitive decline and got up and walked out of the House hearing. The reason he had to appear was because, one, he's lost an enormous amount of money since they shut down the Lollipop Guild in the Emerald City. And two, Peter Dinklage canceled all the contracts for the live-action Dwarves and Snow White. And three, if he doesn't show up, then he's going to jail, right? Those are going to be those are going to be the terms, the condition, right? Those are the new rules. There he is, not answering any questions and running and sprinting away. It's nice to have that kind of transparency and openness, something that people respect. Here's Joe Biden's doctor. No questions. And Joe Biden's doctor literally running away. from White House reporters. Crazy. The difference, ladies and gentlemen, in the administrations. Now on to further transparency. And again, we pray for the president's health. Let's just see if this write-up has anything further in it. White House disclosed that Donald Trump has a chronic condition that leads to swelling in his ankles, and finally addressed the mysterious bruising makeup that has been appearing on the president's hand. Surprise statement from Karoline Leavitt. I certainly wasn't expecting this. The White House says that he had been checked by a doctor and that Donald Trump has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency. Earlier this week, Trump, 79 years old, appeared at the White House press gaggle with what looked like makeup covering a patch on his hands. The splotch had been visible on other occasions throughout the week. The makeup appeared to be concealing a raised circular area of the skin. There is your zoom in right there. And they're saying that this is bruising, some type of dark bruising. You often see this actually in elderly people. They have these large bruises on their hands. Have you ever seen that? Do you have an elderly member of your household? It happens often. The makeup appeared to be concealing a raised circular area of skin. Leavitt said that the president recently noticed mild swelling in his lower legs, and in keeping with routine medical care and the abundance of caution, he was evaluated by the White House medical unit, and he underwent comprehensive examination. Bilateral lower extremity ultrasounds were performed to reveal chronic venous insufficiency, common condition, people over the age of 70. Here's a good example of without the makeup. You can see here the bruises on the president's hand. And you can see maybe some bruising there. And they cover it with makeup. She also addressed the minor bruising on Trump's hand, consistent with soft skin irritation, hand shaking, obviously, and aspirin usage. This also has to do with, obviously, blood flow to the lower extremities. Okay. According to the Cleveland Clinic, chronic venous insufficiency occurs when the leg veins are damaged, making it more difficult for blood to return to the heart. It causes blood to pool in your legs and veins, including and leading to high pressure in those veins. It's common, 1 in 20 adults. The risk increases with age, achy legs, feeling of pins and needles, cramping, swelling, itching, and a leathery-looking skin on your legs. That account tracked with the bruising for the presidential. This Daily Mail saying that they've noticed this for a while now. And so there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Pray for the health of the president, obviously, and thankful for the transparency. We got a question. It's wild. The power of this audience, man. Okay, so we've been asking the leading questions on Epstein for years. The reason why is that it is something that the base cares about. It is something that the broad range of people care about. They're not gotcha questions. We asked these questions well before President Trump ever assumed office. And we've asked them now in the fallout of the DOJ memo. We're supporters of the president. And we're not trying to attack anyone. But you have to stay ideologically consistent on these things. And the consistency is simply that we don't want to pay taxes to pedophiles. That's all. Or protection mechanisms. And so we've asked these questions again and again and again. A clip from Kash Patel in 2023 was played on literally every news show that exists of our show, and Kash saying where the Epstein list is and where all of the evidence is and how much they're covering it all up. This was Kash saying it, okay? So we've been asking these questions, and our question from this week actually just made the White House press briefing. It's not the first time this has happened, but we're proud of it. Here's our question to Mike Johnson that made international headlines, where Mike Johnson says, let's just be out with it. Let's not cover anything up. Let's be out with it. And let's be out with it. Trust with the American people. Put the issue behind us and move on. Totally fine with that. Here's Mike Johnson.
Hear about it. That concerns either testifying or testimony for Ghislaine Maxwell, potentially before Congress, or if you would support members like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Anna Paulina Luna on the release of subpoenaing the Epstein documents from the DOJ, whether you would support either of those.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Marjorie or Anna about that specific subject, but I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. Look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And you know, Pam Bondi, I don't know, when she originally made the statement, I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it, that were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody. I like Pam. I mean, I think she's done a good job. We need the DOJ focusing on the major priorities. So let's get this thing resolved so that they can deal with violent crime and public safety and election integrity and going after Act Blue and the things that the president is most concerned about, as we are. So I'm anxious to get this behind us.
Yeah, and I can see that because there's so many victories and so many wins that are happening.
We just had the most incredible 6 months of any administration, arguably in the history of the United States. There are so many accomplishments. It would take us a stack of papers this high, and yet we're having to spend our time talking about this. Let's get it resolved.
That's going to be wildly refreshing for this audience, and to speak on behalf of them, to hear somebody just say, let's just have transparency with the American people, get it out there, and there's no reason to protect predators, right? So. I mean,
of course.
You know, this is the family values party. Let's just do it.
What Epstein was involved in was an unspeakable evil. We've got to stand against it, not just in word, but in deed. And so we'll see what happens. Look, I do trust the president. I know his heart and head is in the right place. I don't question that at all. And I'm convinced they're going to sort this out.
I think very reasonable, level-headed, and a take that is from the heart. And it's the same take that, honestly, Bongino had back when he had his podcast, that Cash has had on this program. It's the same take that Tucker has currently, along with Megyn Kelly and Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer. and like, just again, it's in the defense of MAGA and defense of the working class base, and in the attack of the deep state upon which so much of these questions rest. And so that is indeed the battle. And you can have both things, right? You can be a deep supporter of President Trump and ask these questions as you see the same powers that wanted to kill President Trump were the ones who've been hiding the Epstein list. The same powers that spied on President Trump and launched hoax after hoax after hoax on our president are the ones who gave Jeffrey Epstein his sweetheart deal. Those are the same people, the Comeys and the Brennans and the Obamas. This is the same cast of characters. They all spawned there in 2017, 2018. This is when Jeffrey Epstein was getting his sweetheart deals, was getting cut these deals, was being allowed to operate. And so let's go after him, man. That's what I say. Anyway, we're asking these questions, and we're aligned, obviously, with Bannon and with Tucker and with Megyn Kelly and with people who've been asking these very important questions. And Karoline Leavitt was asked a ton of questions, actually, about this topic today. But one of them had to do with our interview with Mike Johnson. And so here's that exchange, because the reporter's like, well, this is what Mike Johnson says. What does the White House believe? Let's go.
Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward. He has called on them to do that.
Okay. Now, other breaking news in this is that in spite of the comments that Trump made last night, which seemed quite definitive on the special counsel or on further investigations for the FBI, which the president volunteered. He was on Real America's Voice. We played the clip. Karoline Leavitt says Donald Trump does not agree with the special counsel and is not in favor of the special counsel. This is not the first time, however, that our lines of questions have made national news. In fact, so much of the current news cycle around this stems from a series of statements that the Trump administration made in the early days of the administration And we've only been in this administration, what, 6-7 months? But in the very earliest days, in the nascent days, we were doing interviews asking about this. And we asked James Comer. He's in charge of government oversight. And he said the Epstein files are completely destroyed. This is what James Comer said us and then told us. And then Pam Bondi responded. And boy, howdy, did this make news. Here we go.
I hope James has the Epstein files, because I don't think the Department of Justice has them, or at least the Attorney General does not have them, or she would have turned them over. The President ordered them released.
So
the Attorney General ordered them released.
Even
we all know they have not been released.
Like, look at how shadowy.
And one of my biggest fears that I had, and I expressed this with Kash Patel and a lot of people, Stephen Miller, and a lot of people going into the new administration. I'm like, I hope they're not shredding documents right now. This was a few weeks before the transition. I said, I hope they're not shredding documents. But you all need to go on that first day and try to get all this stuff released, because, my fear is from what I've dealt with in investigations and in communication with this deep state apparatus, is they're probably in there shredding documents as we speak. So hopefully someone has a copy of that. And I hope we find out, because our task force has done everything, led by Anna Paulina Luna. You had her on your show many times. I mean, she's relentless. She's persistent. She's pretty frustrated right now that these files haven't been released, even though the President and the Attorney General have ordered them released.
Didn't actually know my mic was on there. Yeah, didn't actually know my mic was on there. I was like, well, the lighting is better. I'm glad that the lighting is better. We're constantly improving the show. There you go. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long week. And, well, here we go. Pam Bondi responding to that question. Pam Bondi on the White House lawn was asked, yo, James Comer just said that you don't have any Epstein files. And this was now the infamous response. Here we go.
No, the FBI, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
So there you go. That's just one of the famous clips, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of videos. What can be said? I'm not in charge, man. I don't have the keys at the FBI or the DOJ. We have sources. We have people that have told us things. We have sources that told us that there was going to be a move by the administration for further transparency. There seems to be, like, slowly but surely, that seems to be materializing. And when it comes to asking questions about this and wanting to get to the truth, that's something we're not ashamed of. No protections for child predators, period. It's not really even like a hard question for us. It's not really a hard or difficult decision for us. That's just the stance of this program. That being said, we'll see what happens. But we're proud that our reporting has led to some of these revelations, and that our reporting has constantly been brought up in the halls of power, and that is what we're here for. We're here to take the energy of this chat, which I hear was wild today, take the energy of this chat, try to distill it down into some priorities, and then push for those priorities. And it's always an honor when we are part of the news cycle by doing that, right? That is our moral obligation to you. We thank you for subscribing. We thank you for watching. We actually have a blast doing this. And we know, as a matter of fact, that we're making the country better. And so, thank you for being part of this audience. It's your boy Benny. And remember, in the end, we win. See ya.
Not a yes, sir. Not a follower. Fit the box, fit the mold, have a seat for you. Take a number. I was lightning before the thunder. Thunder, thunder. Lightning, then the thunder. Thunder, feel the thunder. Who do you think you are? Dreaming about being a big star. This is the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.